Yeah, we're live. It is 6:28. So actually, technically, I'm a little early for being here at 7. Hopefully, you guys are all doing well. And is it Saturday? It's Saturday night. Hopefully, everyone's having a good weekend. Today, I just put up the latest video that I did while I was down at West Tech, which was my trip to the junkyard. So I want to talk to you guys about that and find out which engine of all of those that I saw would you choose? Because what I didn't put in the video was that I was actually looking for the motor that I wanted to find more than anything. I wasn't going to buy one that day, but the one that I wanted to see more than anything was the 300 inline 6-cylinder Ford. So that's kind of why I took the trip. I mean, there's really no, you don't have to have a specific reason to go to a wrecking yard. I really just go to look around, but that's kind of the motor that I wanted to see. But instead of seeing that Ford, which I didn't see any inline 6-cylinder Fords there, not fuel. Well, I take that back. I didn't see any inline 6-cylinder Ford fuel injected motors, the later ones. I actually saw a couple of carbureted ones, but that's not what I was looking for. So I was looking for the EFI version because I that's what I wanted, is an EFI version, because I'd like to run one of those eventually, because I've never run one and I want to play with that intake manifold particularly. There are a few cool things I want to do with one. So we want to run that. So I thought, you know what? It's time for me to get away from the dyno for a second and not be working 18 hours a day there, getting stuff ready to try to dyno test. I wanted to go over and take a vacation. And for me, vacation equals going over to the wrecking yard. And so, for me, there's just no place cooler than that. There's never been a day that I've been to the wrecking yard and not found something that I thought was like really cool or something that I wanted. In fact, it'd be very unusual for me just to find only one thing that I want that needs to come home with me. And in this case, I found a ton of stuff. If I had an unlimited budget and unlimited space to put them in, I would have came home with a lot of stuff. I would have, so you guys let me know if you had. First of all, have you guys watched the video? And then did you see all of the things that I saw, or at least the things, not all, that's actually not all the things that I saw. Those are all the things I stopped and did video on. There's a lot more there that I walked by and thought, oh yeah, that would be good. But there's not an endless amount of time. I can't make the video like an hour long where I'm walking around and talking to myself. But there were a lot of cool things, and you saw on the video that I found no less than 4 different LS motors. So the question at the beginning of that video is an interesting one. So which one of those would you pick if you wanted to do a cam only thing, like I talked about, putting maybe which one you picked would dictate which camshaft you wanted to put in it, and vice versa. So if you had a Truck Norris cam or a hot rod cam or a because we're kind of going up in stages, or hot rod or red hot, or we even talked about, okay, let's go whole hog and put something in that would kind of be the biggest thing that you could put in with factory valve clearance. And that would be like the stage 4 LS3 cam that we put in this 5.3 recently in the L33, where we're running it out to 7,500 plus RPM. So if you're picking one of those cams, what would you want to put it in? There were endless 4.8s and 5.3s, as there normally are. There were dozens of those. Well, at least a dozen that I saw, that I stopped by and looked. Because after you go by them all and you see a dozen of those, you're like, that's okay. That's a 4.8. That's an 862. That's a 706. That's an 862. That's a 706. And then you get excited, like I did in the video, where we see like a 317 head, because I very, very rarely do I ever see those. Sometimes I'll find one of those in the wrecking yard, but never 4 of them like I did. And I've never seen one with the 317 headed motor just sitting on the ground. It's still attached to the transmission. I don't know exactly what they were looking for. If somebody wasn't going to get a way to pick up that motor and transmission, maybe they want to take the whole thing. There was no intake manifold on it. There's no way that you'd pull that off just to get the intake manifold. The intake manifold is very easy to get, and there's nothing special about that intake manifold. It's just an early truck manifold, so there are lots of those. There was a Trailblazer SS style manifold there, and as I mentioned, so if you're talking about getting a camshaft or doing a cam only thing, there were lots of 4.8s, there were lots of 5.3s. There were 2 kind of special ones. One of them was a 4.8 with 243 heads on it, so a Gen 4. The other one was a Gen 4 5.3 with 799 heads on it. So what I was asking people is which 5.3 was that? I think people were pointing toward it being an LY5. I didn't look up the VIN number, so because I purposely wanted to not find the answer before I did the video, so that it, so that so there would be a little bit of mystery there. So those two are there. So we have you could argue, do you need the? Everybody wants I want the super high flow 799 heads or the 243 heads, and do you need them on a 4.8? I mean, is it? Do you want that much more flow? Do you need that much more? Are you going to utilize that much more flow? Would that be a good choice for a bigger cam because it has more flow? Because it's a small motor, it's going to want to rev. Same thing with a 5.3. Would you pick one of those two, or would you go 6-liter, one of the 4 6-liters that we found? Would you pick those? And then if you were going to pick a 6-liter, let me know in the comments which one of those, like what kind of cam would you put in if you got one of those 6-liters, and they're all 317 headed deals. And so let's say that, because if I was getting one 6-liter, I'd get a 6-liter and I would get the good intake manifold too. I get the Trailblazer SS intake manifold. And for me, I probably would try to get a mechanical throttle body, although there's not a mechanical 90 millimeter throttle body. So you're stuck with a drive-by-wire one, which I'm not a fan of. But if you went and got that, what camshaft would you put in it? Would you put in a Truck Norris style camshaft? Something, it definitely makes power. I mean, it picked up like 65 horsepower when we did the testing with it, or the, hot rod cam or red hot cam, or go all the way to where this is as much cam as I could put in it. Which flavor would you like of your 6-liter if you were to get one of those 6-liters? What kind of cam would you guys put in those? What would you want the thing to be? A tow vehicle, a driver kind of thing? Would you want it to be a performance thing? I've seen a lot of guys take 6-liters and cam them with one of these kinds of cams, and then even run it carbureted and put it in old hot rods and stuff, a C10 truck or a Chevelle or something. And that's good because a 6-liter we know makes good power. And especially if you put enough camshaft in them, there's no reason you can exceed 600 with a 6-liter. I mean, 500 with a 6-liter. 600 with a 6-liter gets hard. And just like 500 with a 5.3 gets hard. You have to throw a lot of stuff at it to do that. With boost, it's very, very easy. Pick any of those camshafts and then add boost to it. In fact, on a 6-liter, you don't even have to have a camshaft to make 600 horsepower. Same thing with a 4.8 or a 5.3. You just add boost to it. And then with a stock cam, it idles nice and does all that stuff. But on the 6-liter, if you put like a Truck Norris cam or something like that in there, then you can put boost to it and, make lots and lots of power. Make more power than you're probably going to want. But let me know what you guys would pick. And what of those other motors, if we weren't looking at LS stuff, what of the other motors did you guys like? If you watched the video, what would you guys pick? Would you pick the V10 Dodge? Would you pick a V10 Ford? Would you pick a VTEC Honda? Like I ran across a couple of K series and J series Hondas, the V6s and the 4-cylinders. We ran a couple of those, the 2.4 liter version. I don't remember seeing any 2-liter versions. Lots and lots of cool, like classic stuff. Lots of slant 6s there. There were probably 3 or 4 of those. There was a Cleveland there, had a 2V Cleveland. There were there was a Pontiac there, which was a 400, a 2-barrel 400, which I thought was interesting. There was a couple of Buicks there. I didn't see any Oldsmobiles. There were that 69 station wagon that I'm in my mind, I'm thinking that's a 400. It might not be, but it had a Q-Jet. The Q-Jet was pretty rusty, which I thought the blades were rusty, which I thought was interesting. Are the blades on a Q-Jet steel? It must be. I thought for some reason I was thinking that they were brass, but maybe they are steel on the Quadrajet. They were definitely rusty. And there were a couple of good carburetors that I liked there, a couple of 2-barrel carburetors that I wanted. There were a few air-cooled VWs there. What else was in the section? In that specialty section, there were more than a few Mercedes, and I like looking at those because on the 6-cylinder Mercedes, they have 2 4 barrels on them, which is maybe part of the reason that they tended to make pretty good power back then, because they had lots of induction system on them. But there was a lot of cool stuff, and it makes, for me, I like going to the wrecking yard and seeing all that stuff. I like seeing the classic stuff. I like seeing the new stuff. I like seeing all of it. It would be great to go there and see nothing but Godzillas and Coyotes and LT motors and, the L8Ts and the LV3s and all of the newer stuff. But that's just not, I mean, that will eventually come to pass, but that's just not right now. Right now, it's still LS motors are way more than anything else. I mean, there's a lot of small block Chevys there. Don't get me wrong, but I think that because from a factory standpoint, an LS motor makes more power than a factory 350 does that you're going to find there. So I think that's why most people gravitate to that. And the LS market is big. It's very, very big still. And judging by what's going on at the wrecking yard, I can kind of understand why, because there's lots of them there. I don't know that I'm ever going to see this many 6 liters in one place, but I have to get at least one of them. And I probably should have got that 2-barrel Cleveland too, just to have a Cleveland, but it was pretty ratty looking, but it's nothing that, machine work and stuff can't fix. It would have been cool to see a 4-barrel intake on that, even if it wasn't, even if they weren't 4V heads, but I wish they were 4V heads. The last one I didn't get in every day. I'm still kind of kicking myself for that. So let's see. Okay. Would you have left the yard without picking up one of the 6-liter LS motors? Who would have walked away? I know I had to. I didn't want to. Chris, Eric, what's going on? Thanks for the kind words. Richard, your green screen needs something. I had to use the green screen today. We need to find a hub dyno. We made 14 PSI on a 408 LS on the 85 and the chassis dyno. We're not able to hold 700 wheel horsepower before slipping. Our first track day was canceled due to weather. They can't run 700 wheel horsepower on a chassis dyno. Have not had a chance to watch the video yet. Took me an engine apart, all bad. Machine shop did not install my heavy duty springs. Did you test the springs, Todd? Did you pressure test them? Made 21 PSI on the same tune-up on the street. Dyno couldn't hold enough traction to make boost. That seems odd. We run a lot of boosted stuff on the engine, on the chassis dyno. Might seem like a foolish question, but how would running something tuned for E85 run if it was filled up with 91 octane, no flex fuel setup currently? It's going to be way too rich, like way, way too rich. It's going to be 25% or 30% rich. Hammer my cam lifters, metal throughout the whole motor. That's not good. What's up? I just finished giving the Beamer a nose job. So you found a new nose for it and bumper and stuff? 6-liters are hard to find in my area. Yeah, they're normally really hard to find. I don't see them very often. This was unusual. That's why I was so excited about it. Can't go wrong with the Truck Norris. That's a good cam. Rowdy as a 6-liter can go. That's good. Good answer. Good answer. My problem is I did remote tuning. Initially, I told them I was doing flex fuel, but it's not active in my hull yet because it wasn't wired in yet. I did the first start with 91. I'm siphoning it out now. You can start it up, but you should be able to see whether it's rich or lean if you start it. It didn't run abnormal. I want the Hemi. Okay, I did see that. I forgot to mention that there were a couple of Hemis there. There was a truck one and there was a car one. Had the car one had the cool Magnum intake manifold. It's just the car version of the intake manifold. And the car version and the truck version actually both do very well. AFR was 14s. So maybe at idle, was it running closed loop? If it was running closed loop, it may have been at idle been able to take away enough fuel to make that work. The 68 Catalina wagon is a 2-barrel 400. Yeah, this was a, I think this was a Catalina. Looking forward to more power than I want. There you go. As a former Fiero guy, I enjoy the 3800 stuff. It's a very popular swap in Fieros. Yeah, I like the 3800 stuff. And I like the 3800 stuff in Fieros so that you can pop wheelies with them. Idle timing would be similar if not pulled back a few degrees. You're not going to hurt it with idle timing. So it doesn't, as long as it's not running on, because it has so much timing when you shut it off. But that's not going to hurt it. Wide open throttle, higher RPM timing, table areas, it would be dangerous. Yeah, 91. And you could run E85 on the 91 tune as far as timing at wide open throttle. You just can't do it the other way if you've added a bunch more timing with E85, because we can run more timing safely and a lot more boost safely with E85 than you can with 91. So if you utilize that, you can't run it at wide open throttle on 91 like that. You should buy every 6-liter you find and sell it. I agree. I was talking to a friend about that. They said, yeah, that needs to be a thing. Running Holiday, just set the flex sensor. It's very simple to do. If you need a base flex tune, let me know. I can send you a safe, conservative base tune. I'll have to email him and ask him if it's currently set up for 91 or 85. That's what I told him I primarily run. Dan, you're a Ford guy? Coyote's like a couple of H22 sharing a crank. I know you said not to, but it fits so well. I'm using a new Land Rover supercharger instead of the M90. Okay, that's good. If it fits, it ships, right? We had 6 on the car during the dyno session. They were just shredding and rolling. What kind of chassis dyno was it? Does the power sound right on? My 5-liter has a BTR stage 3 truck cam, PRC 2.5, 2.5 heads, plus 3C West Coast pistons. Only made 476 to the wheels. Does it made 476 to the tires NA? That seems very, very high. I got lucky when I found my 6-liter. However, it's an iron block and I picked it up for 175. If it's a 6-liter, you're going to find them as iron blocks. All of these truck motors are iron blocks. You need one of those 6-liters so you can finally test a truck Norris on it, see how close your guess was. I don't have any Woody. I don't have any 459 cams for sale. I do have a sloppy stage 3 though. Yeah, coil binding's definitely a real thing, Todd. Junkyards near me almost never have 5.3s or 6.0s. I guess my guess is the employees call their buddies and flip them on Facebook. Even a 5.3, 4.8s and 5.3s are like, like I said, there's at least a dozen of them there, but 6.0s are usually nowhere to be found. I've gotten to the wrecking yard before and found vans and stuff that have those, but they're gone by the time I get there. Is it a Super Vet? Is it a manual transmission? Because that would be like 576 at the flywheel, and I've never seen a 5.3 ever make that much power, especially not with a BTR. Are you sure it's not 376 to the wheels? How much horsepower you see from crank to wheels? It's a big, huge variance, but 100 is an easy guess. I select yes because I wouldn't be prepared to take an engine. Single wheel dyno jet. They said they had the same issue with other bias-ply cars. Made 700 horsepower at 4,200 RPM. And started spinning hard and shredding the tires. Huh. When you're testing it, have you rolled the car forward so it's slightly on the downside of the roller and not on the top of the roller? Have you tested octane booster? I don't know how you want that tested. Are you talking about testing it versus detonation? Because I don't have the ability to do that. By running a driving truck with a 6.0 and swapping in a 5.3 or 4.8. By a running driving truck? Oh. You want two 6-liters, two 4L80s, and two 460s. Throw them into a prepaid 20-foot container to Australia. There were a couple of 460s there. There was an EFI one, and there was a carbureted one. In fact, there was probably 3 or 4 of those of the 460s, I think. Silva, I do have cams, and I have a Truck Norris like camshaft, and then I have a low buck Norris, and then one step up from that. VP and Lucas make octane booster. Yep. The school bus conversion vans are a great place to find cheap 6-liters. It was actually more on the back side. Yeah, it needs to be on the front side. Would have got 6-liter if I had room, but I have to add to my garage and do it. Like paying for a storage unit. Don't like paying for a storage unit. I have storage units and it's not good. Mid-range, maybe a Chuck Norris and just add more low boost. Yep. With boost, you can put little cams in there and make lots of power. It has a 4L60 and 456 gears on 33-inch tires. Yeah, a 5.3 doesn't make anywhere near that with a truck cam in it. Yeah, Todd, that's not uncommon. I mean, there's only a couple of things that it can be. Do you know what the 4.2-liter Land Rover supercharger is? I want to lower the boost. I think it's a 112, but you can look that up and see do you know what year it came off of? Octane booster is a joke. It raises octane by tenths. I've been told that by chemists and people that have come into West Tech, but I've also been told there are some like that boost stain stuff, and there are others that actually work well. I was looking on Marketplace for GT45 turbos. There are a bunch of those advertised as GT45s, but the casing says J78. Aren't J78 diesel turbos? I don't know anything about the J78 or J98 designation. I'm not familiar with that. You have to trust your machinist. Yeah, I do, but I still would check all of that stuff. Wouldn't mind getting my hands on a 4L70. If I had the money, I'd pick up any LS engine. No work on the 5.7 iron LS1 this week. My puppy is still sick, trying to figure this diet thing. Uh-oh. The Storage Wars cast has probably been near your storage units. Yeah, we don't want them going there. Yeah, Todd, don't worry about a cam. You got other stuff to worry about. Do you have a favorite sounding LS cam and idle? I don't do idle clips. I don't even do that on the engine dyno, so I don't know about that. It was an Turbo Centro was an 07 or 08. Yeah, just look it up online and it will tell you what the displacement of the blower is. I think it's a 112. It's either a 112 or a 122. What's the going rate for a 6-liter in California? I don't know anymore. They used to be all the same, but I don't know how hatchet they are now. I'm sure that they're a lot. And it used to be that you would get them. We'd get them for, I think on the sale weekends, we would get them for like, I want to say like 250 or $300, but they'd be complete. They'd have all the accessories on it, from pan to intake manifold, throttle body, all of that stuff was there. In fact, we'd take all that off and just throw it away. Junkyards figure out to be one of them. The one thing that they did early on is they raised the price of 454 Chevys for some reason. The 460 Fords were still like every other motor. So whether you got a 4-cylinder Honda or a V8, whatever, they're all the same. Next weekend, I'm going out to finish sealing the 5.7. Looks like 6 liters every time it does now. Well, I think that this is a very unusual situation. You can pick up any junkyard motor for 250-ish. That's good. Where's that at? At the 6 liters, my buddy Fine need cam bearings. Is that because you're seeing the copper color on the bearing and you think that they need cam bearings, or has the cam bearing spun in it? If it's spun, that's bad. Yeah, super vet. I've certainly run dozens and dozens of 5.3s and hundreds of them, if you count all the different camshafts and stuff. And a 5.3 with ported heads on it and that small truck cam doesn't make 475 at the tires. So I don't know what the discrepancy is. There's something going on there. Can I swap heads on the 6-liter with 799s? Yeah, that's easy. You can, the 317s, taking the 317s off and put 799s on it would be good. Or the 821s or 823s. Lots of 6 liters around Spokane, Washington. Either spun or all copper. $150 for transmissions. That's a good deal. Turbos and blowers for $25. I need to take a trip up to Washington. I need to go pick up the Metro anyways. When I saw the Turbo 400 or the Pontiac 400, I thought that would have been a good one to have too. Pontiacs are always good. I forgot now what year that was. I think I looked it up though. I think it was in the 70s. Yeah, Andy, that's something you have to be concerned with. His comment was which 6-liter an LQ9 is going to have almost 11-to-1. If it's a Yukon or Escalade, if it's an LQ9 and you swap heads out from the big chamber 317 heads to the smaller chamber 799 heads, and then even worse if you go to the even smaller 706 or 862 heads. Where did you get your turbo oil feed on a Gen 3 5.3? There's an oil pressure sending unit. I think it's up in the front cover or off of the block near the front cover on the passenger side, I think, if I remember right. Turbos and blowers used to be $12. That's nice. Old iron is cool. I agree. The 460 would have been cool. Like, I want to do an EFI 460. I don't know why. It's just weird, but the 400 is cool. And there was an AMC there too, a 304. Can I tap into the ECT for a temp gauge going to an LS MSD ignition without issues for the MSD box? Will your temperature gauge read off of the factory coolant temp sensor? I don't know what signal your gauge wants. Florida's in the house. I have a stock of Turbo 400s and 4L80s. I have some Turbo 400s for Pontiacs if anybody wants those or is looking for those. I'm selling them for that young lady. Talking to the friend about the dark gauges when all of that were available and overdrives to 700 R4s. I know this is a big deal. Big Bang Pontiac 400. That's not very high on the list. The head on my iron have 799s in the corner, but the long casting code under the valve cover says 243. Just interesting to me. Yeah, they're the same head. The MC360 is the big block. The real question is the 401? You're doing the engine coolant temp straight to the. Why does the MSD need a coolant temperature? You recommend a 302 for drifting? A 302 Ford? What car are you using? Any engine you can use for drifting. I think I would pick an LS because it's going to make more power and there's lots of them out there. I think all the MCs are the same size. I don't think that they have big blocks and small blocks, but that's why I asked about the 401 because it's one more than 400. Slightly smaller chamber than the LS1 head. I replaced the pre-facelift bumper with a facelift bumper. I found one in the yard that's the same color. That's a score, right, Michael? When you when you find a matching color, that's always good. I guess the J98s are just designates that it was a 98 millimeter compressor exducer. Wouldn't twin 98s be kind of big? A 98 millimeter exducer might not be the big. What's the inducer on the turbo? Richard, what's your take on a 5.7 Hemi and an 85 Camaro? Does that speak to you? I have no loyalty to one motor has to be the same brand as the car that it goes in. You should swap in the thing that you like or the thing that you have. Would you confront your machinist and just let it go? If he assembled the heads and put stock springs in them, and are you going to be able to confirm the fact that you told him to put or that you gave him other springs to put in? Because if that's his mistake, then he should fix that engine. MC401 is a fast engine. The Javelins run 12s. Like a modified 401 should run 12s. Is that what you're saying? Fox body looking for a good cam heads and take subs, take a little beating. There's endless videos I have up for different kinds of combinations for Fox body stuff for 302s, 347s, 333s, 325s. 6-liter. They make mid-range, crazy good for real fun street driving. A 67 C10. Did you pick an LS2 or an LS3 in an International Scout? Did you have the choice of either one of those two? The LS3 makes more power. It's bigger. Martin, so it's a 6998. Okay, yeah, that's not terribly big. That's like the GT45, right? I still want to do a 416 FE with twins. I don't know, Bill. What you got to tell me what size, how much power you want. That's going to dictate the turbo size. But going down on the stroke length of a Gen 357 heavy, allow it to rev higher. Nope. That's all valve train. 69 Javelin customer car. I'm almost wrapped up with has a 360. One of them had a 401. Cool. Yeah, this was I think that this was an AMX. Used to be loyal to Ford, and Ford did you wrong. Iron Duke swap the world. Does that mean you want to swap anything that has an Iron Duke in it? You want to swap something else into it? I think you get people to rally around that. Although I do want to test an Iron Duke. Ronald, I'm not a tuner, so I don't do tunes. Yeah, Jeremy, just if you have a Hemi in it, it's like this. If this is the Hemi thing, and you want to, there's no reason you can't put it in a Camaro. We were at the Silver State. There's a guy who had tri-power FEs in Camaros and an El Camino, and I think a Chevelle. I think he had all three of them, which was. I don't know that that's the one that I would pick. I mean, it is cool, but he had to, this was, I'm just trying to get this thing to focus. It was a top speed thing. I don't know that I would, those are heavy motors because they were all iron. So I don't know that I would pick those, but still, we told them, hey, dude, that's kind of cool. It's weird, which we like. That and the Saab Sonic guy that had the iron 289 in it. Come on. Let's get back into focus here. Camera. There we go. Turbo Sentra, it's an M112, says 18,000 RPM max and 700 crank horsepower. Should be plenty big enough. Yeah, that's the same blower size that was on the 0304 Cobra, and they were good. We've made good power with those. All the custom stuff nowadays, like the V10, V12 LS, and the 4-valve Ford V10. I want to see a dual 300 inline 6 made into a 600 V12. Yeah, that's going to be a lot more work than these other things. I feel the same way, and I gave him the springs. If he put the wrong springs on it and said that this is good to go, then that's on him. What's the response to someone that says a 4853 and 60 is not an LS, not a big deal when the Vortec is making horsepower when boosted? Just curious. I don't know what you mean. Why is it not part of the LS family? Those are all part of the LS family. All of those variants, the 7-liter, the 6.2, all of those are part of the LS family. I'd have picked up all 4 of the 6-liters. Yep. Remember an article, Mopar 413 and 93 Camaro? Yeah. It was a 440 in the Chrysler Imperial that I saw because it was a 66. If it was a 65, it would have been a 413, which would have been cool because not that I've run a bunch of 440s, but a 413 would be even weirder than a 4. There'd be more other guys than a 440. Michael, so you think of just a 75 shot on the Iron Duke and that would be the end of it? Yeah, Todd, just be nice. How about an Oldsmobile? Yep. I have seen a couple of Oldsmobiles, but they've been, I remember seeing a 403 and a Trans Am, which I thought was weird. I haven't seen very many Trans Ams in the yard. I take all 4, sell 3, making the one I kept free. There you go. Yeah, the Iron Dukes were used in a lot of stuff. It does make the supercharger sound. That's right. Some other YouTube guy made a video about them not being LS motors because it says the word Vortec on the valve cover or on the cover. Yeah, that's like arguing about motors and engines and that kind of stuff. There was a Camaro with an Iron Duke in it, the base 4-cylinder. I just watched the L78 396 make 434 horsepower stock with headers. Pretty strong for a 396. My Uncle Bud used to run the best engine he had in his figure 8 car. They all came from the Junkyard. The Junkyard stuff is good. It's already broken in, ready to go. Ronald, the original 5.7 LS, all the LS engine family has the same cross-bolted block design. I've been told by plenty of people that the only true LS came in Camaros, Corvettes, G8s. The truck engine isn't an LS. That's nonsense. OMC made a 3-liter Iron Duke. I remember reading about that. I don't know that I've ever seen one in person, though. 403s are not good blocks. The 350 diesel can be converted to gas. I can honestly say I've never looked for one of those. ECT says for timing advance and retarding changes, but not necessary. Yeah, we never hook any of that stuff up when we run it on the dyno, not for the MSD, not for carbureted stuff. I came across 261 or 62 Imperials in that burnt collection. They were already spoken for and undamaged. Okay. I have too many projects. I'm going to race it before I start building a new one. That's smart. Build an Oldsmobile NASCAR block. Jesse, I don't know if this sounds kind of goofy, but would an engine of the same displacement, but one being a 4-cylinder and one being a 6-cylinder, spool the same turbo at a different rate due to exhaust pulses? That's a good question. I honestly don't know. I tend to lean toward the fact that motors of the same displacement that are making the same power will spool the turbo the same because they have the same amount of exhaust. The thing that I don't know is I honestly don't know how much the pulsing from exhaust, in the firing order, and from each side, and did you do it on a 4-cylinder is probably not going to be a divided housing. On a 6-cylinder, it could be a divided housing. I don't know how much that stuff is going to come into play. I don't know. I think you'd be picking nits looking at as long as they are the same displacement and they made the same power. I think the spool rate would be very, very comparable. I think the other stuff would be, like I said, you'd be looking at small changes. LS, I was told they used in Corvettes. Well, they use the same LS1 in all the car vehicles. So Camaro, Corvette, a GTO. Same thing with the LS2. Same thing with the LS3. The trucks got their Vortec designation, but some of the trucks even got aluminum motors too. So that's just guys with cars trying to make you think that their engine is somehow superior to the truck engine that they made millions of that are used for all of the swaps and all of the power production, and not the handful of ones that they used in Camaros and Corvettes. Are there any Big Bang videos on the radar? Yes. Or thank you for getting the Looney Tunes frog. Hello, my baby stuck. How did I do that? Oh, because now I hear it now. I get it. What about map input? Do you run that on the dyno? We normally don't. You can run map input. We're never on the engine dyno. I'm never mapping all of the part throttle and different idle vacuum stuff. We're going from idle to wide open throttle. So we're doing essentially what a distributor does, a centrifugal advance distributor, one with no vacuum advance. We're going from this position to all of it position, and then from this RPM to this RPM. And the distributor, like a lock distributor, already does that. And that's essentially what we're using on the engine dyno when we're running these MSD ignition controllers for the carbureted LS stuff. If I was doing that for, drivability and stuff, then we would have to go through all of that. You could test if the engine displacement affect turbo spool with a 4.3 Vortec and the 4.3 LT. As long as you could get them to, my concern is that not the displacement so much as that two of the same displacements can have wildly different power outputs. You have a 4.3 that makes 100 horsepower, 200 horsepower, and one that makes 300, 400 horsepower. And so they'll have different spool rates. But if the motors are the same, if you got a V6 and a V8 or a four-cylinder or whatever, and the same displacement and they make the same power, is just the change in the engine configuration, is that going to change spool? That's the question that interests me, not so much the change in power, because I know what that's going to do. The Iron Duke was a 4-inch bore on a 3-inch stroke, half of a DC302. That means it liked to rev. Yes, because of the bore and stroke. We know that that's all that it takes to get the motor to rev, right? I got the M90 out of a Monte Carlo pace car edition. It was mint, but it had damage. Yeah, that's the same motor as the Buick Regal and the GTP and all that. Think of buying a G8 Pontiac, like a G8 with an L78, and not the 396 L78. Aren't they built from the factory for boost? Every LS motor is. 3-liter marine engines are based on the old 153-inch 4-cylinders used in the Novas and the bread vans. Easiest way to get 400 out of a 96 LT1 Camaro. I think cam and ported heads probably gets you to 400, right, on a LT1. It already has the I think that intake is already easily going to support that. Or I'll have to measure ring gap. Yeah, I don't know. What is the L78 designation? Isn't that just a regular 6-liter or 6? It's just a 6-liter, right? That's not a factory supercharged motor, right? So if it's not a factory supercharged motor, and even if it is, you should look at the ring gap. The last LS engine produced for trucks was L96. Yeah, because they continued the LS production into the LT production for some of the heavy duty versions of the trucks, right? Don't have a lot of cash and been going back and forth between Gen 6 big block, LS 5.7, or Hemi, most horsepower for the buck. My friend's truck has an aluminum 5.3. Yeah, they did have aluminum 5.3s available in trucks. Pontiac had an over-the-counter magnesium 2.5 block. The Super Duty one. Westech has a Super Duty block, but it's not aluminum. It's not magnesium. It's iron. How much power do you think a Scat Cast 383 crank will hold? I don't know a lot. Judging by what we've done at the LS, we've not heard a crankshaft. Yeah, Jeremy, I get that. You don't want to be a me too. Also, when you pop the hood, you want to make a statement. That's cool. That's a good reason to do it different. It's possible to stick a 4.3 V8 crank on a 350 block. Yes, it is. In a one-piece seal block, it is. How do you calculate the needed bearing clearances based on the journal diameter? How many decades did it take to corrode one of those crewman mini mail postal vans? Are those aluminum? What are they made of? Bob, I said yes, but I have no idea what you're talking about. It's all good. I probably still would have left without one because of pocket change. Yeah, I get that. Ronald, all I got to do is do a search for L78. Go to On All Cylinders at Summit, and they have a listing of all of them. Yeah, not that, not that, not that. Are you sure it's an L78 and not an L76? My washer took a dive. When it rains, it pours. Yeah, my refrigerator is still out. My truck is doing the same thing again, despite the fact that I put a new battery in it. So it's I haven't cured the wiggle the battery cable test yet. So I'm still working on it. They were okay. They were riveted aluminum. The mail trucks were. Thought severe duty was a designation for stop and go traffic rather than racing. Yeah, Todd, I've been to the laundromat when our stuff breaks. Yeah, Andy, the whistling song is that. It is a song. Is horsepower and RPM a factor in calculating the bearing clearances? Yeah, you would put more bearing clearance in a race application, in a higher RPM race application. Looking for 800 horsepower from a 316. Is it a 316? A 316 what motor is that, and how much boost are you talking about? 416. Okay. 316 means boost. A Hemi, if you do a Hemi, it's not going to be anywhere near as inexpensive as it is with an LS. So doing a Gen 3 Hemi is going to cost more. Why didn't you get the 6 liters? Because I don't have the money or the place to put them, unfortunately. Is methanol injection worth the trouble on an LS? Are you having limited octane issues where you want to add more boost and timing? Water methanol injection can help with that. My problem with it's always been distribution, though. Jesse, what magnesium intake bolts are you trying to take off? Yeah, Ronald, that makes more sense. It's an L76. Yeah, that's a common 6 liter. Not saying that other brands are better, but Cam Motion seems to be a little more cost effective for Gen 4 Hemi cams. I haven't looked at the pricing on them. I just know that Hemi cams are going to be more than LS stuff. Well, it's a commercial on the live show. Yeah, that's paying the bills, man. Take care of the guys at Mazda. I don't know. Have any idea what what commercials run? That's all YouTube. Bob, you scored a bunch of books. That's cool. The Gen 6 big block Jeremy mentioned is probably more inexpensive than the Hemi as well. Yeah, I think the cam certainly would be. The nice thing about the Hemi is it already has pretty good heads on it, so you'd have to look at that. And then you could port the factory aluminum heads on the Hemi and get a lot of power. And it depends on what power level you want to achieve. There's also a 4.3-liter V8, 3.1-inch stroke swapped into a two-piece rear seal. Oh yeah, yeah. If you find an early one like that, I think he was talking about the L99 motor. The L99 and the LT1 combination is the one that I want to do. Yeah, B&R. I'll send over the photos. I meant to do that, and then we just got busy. Ronald, what is your question about E85? I think he means Dodge Magnum engine, not magnesium bolts. That would make more sense. I wanted somebody to tell me about the magnesium engine, that other than a Volkswagen one, but off subject. Is there 280 ARC 7s on damage at the burnt collection that will be getting crushed for anyone that needs one? Does one of them have a does it have the motor in it? Is it running? And where is this at? Because I would love to have I would love to just have the motor. If it's an 80s, depending on when it is, if it's a later 80s, then it would probably be a 12A. But if it's an earlier one, it could be a 13B. How long does it take to assemble an engine from start to finish? It depends. It depends on if you have everything that you need to assemble the engine. You could get it done if you knew what you were doing and you didn't have to remeasure everything. You could do an engine assembly done pretty fast in a day, certainly. I have an old inline 6-cylinder Ford Fairmont. It's an oddball size engine. I think it's a 3.3. Having to look it up. KD, let me know where those are. I don't know what state is that in. I have E85 and also have big intercooler. Haven't got it running on the road yet to see IATs. Just throwing the idea around because I have a methanol tank and pump. If you have E85 and an intercooler, I don't know why you would do. I don't know why you do a methanol injection on it. Are you turning it up that much where that's going to be a concern? It's up in Washington. Okay. Have you had a chance to see a Chrysler Hurricane up close? I have not. I don't even. No, I'm sure I've seen a picture of it, but yeah. Hopefully those bolts are not anything like the head bolts on the Atlas motor. Those were a bit problematic. I broke every one of them. After I broke 3 of them, I'm like, I'm breaking them all because this is already like machine shop kind of thing that I'm gonna have to get all these out. No, I'm asking, is running E85 better than methanol injection for boost to run more timing Is running E85 better than meth injection? So are you asking, is running E85 better than running water meth injection and pump gas? Yes, it's better. You don't need to run more compression if you have boost. There's no reason to do that. I'm sure it's locatable on Google Maps. It used to be 4,000 collection. Takes up most of the mountain. The Mods 13, no, that's a 13BT engine. We don't care about that. The first 13B was carbureted 74 to 1980. Got injection in 84. I remember my buddy in his 81 racing a guy in an earlier, and you know, he had a, yeah, it was an 81. And I thought that he was racing an earlier one that had a 13B in it. But I could be wrong. I'm not a rotary expert. Compression is for idiots like me that want to keep the car NA because I think it fits the character. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. The compression would be one thing I would use on an NA motor, but I wouldn't try to do it on a turbo motor. That would be very, very low on the list of things. Search gray fires. Okay. If you're given the option for a turbo build, I would definitely pick 10 to 1 and not 11 to 1. Wankel engine is not a rotary. A rotary looks like a radial. Are we getting nitpicky again? Nicholas, over tightening can cause the fitting to be bad. We just had one go bad on the dyno, and then I found out that the fitting probably was originally put on when the dyno was assembled. So I don't know how long we could expect that to last. I don't know how many decades the fitting is supposed to work. So, Andy, you want to build a custom 231 V8? So, KD, what are they just selling all of those because a fire went through there? How would you turn an RV 440 into a muscle car 440? Same thing as everything. Just the only things that made the muscle car ones better was that they probably had better induction system, more compression, and more cam timing. Does NA and supercharged engines have better torque curves compared to an NA? Yeah, you have to tell me what your definition of better is. If you take a look at the NA motor is not even going to be close to any of the boosted motors. It's going to make less power everywhere because you're starting with the NA motor. So all the boost does is add to that wherever that is. But even if it doesn't add any down low, because it takes a while for the turbo to spool up or whatever, it still has at least the NA power. So it's always that good. So the boost is going to be better. And depends on the turbo sizing and how you want the response to be. All of that. Friend of mine had an RX-3. I like those too. Again, I don't know what you mean by flat or curved. Is that what you want? Do you want the curve to be flat? You don't want it to have a curve. You don't want it to make more. You want it to be flat. My old V10B of WS 12-1. Yeah, high compression NA stuff is good. I don't have any 360 Magnum build videos because I only have one of those and I haven't done any rebuilding on it. All we did was for Engine Masters, we did a piston flip on that and just took all the ones from one side and put them on the other side and then put it back together. Also found an 81-inch turbo Trans Am T-top car, missing the tops. The tops are probably expensive, but if it's a runner, that would be cool. Okay, we're gonna close out our poll at 71%. So would you have left the yard without picking up at least one of the 6 liters? 71% saying nope, I wouldn't. I would pick the engines up. And on that note, it is time to go. Thank you guys all for showing up. I will be back tomorrow with more and more videos.